Michael is an author. Michael is a motivational speaker. Michael is someone who has worked on radio for many years. And I think that what he has become now is a household name. Just where people need to be motivated and to get themselves out of a rut, they may think, what would Michael Stewart do or say in this situation? So that, I think, is something that, you know, you obviously are going to have to bear that burden now. You know that.
I hear you.
And it might not necessarily be a burden, Michael, but it is something that you have to be aware of.
Yes.
Yeah, people coming up to you asking advice all the time.
Yes. So you're in a function. I went to a Mother's Day dance recently, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, a gentleman, he was dancing, and he came across.
He didn't ask you to dance. Okay.
No, but he came over, and so part of the time I had to go towards chatting with him and so on. But I mean, it's the par for the course.
Yeah, but you know, sometimes you want to say, oh goodness, look, I'd much prefer to be dancing with my wife at this time than talking to you about your problems. But as you say, it is part of the course, and you have to put up with it. The book, Get Yourself Up, and I want to give it a plug because it's a lovely book. I haven't read it in its entirety, Michael, but it's like one of these books I have bedside that every now and again I pick up. Because there's some books that's the better way to read it.
Yes.
This is too much information to put into your head, chapter after chapter. But for those of you who like what Michael has been saying, this book is available, I think, in most bookshops in Trinidad and Tobago. It's Get Yourself Up. We'll show it to you again in a little while. Okay, are you ready? Yeah, here it is. Get yourself up. In other words, get out of the rut. Take yourself out of the hole.
Rely on yourself to move your life forward.
Our conversation today, and we always have to kind of find a topic and go with it, and then open up our telephone lines and people get involved. I think it was something we ended with last week, where we were talking about this whole idea of people being in your debt. In other words, people owing you money. And not willing or wanting or even considering paying you back. And you were saying that that is a major problem that a lot of people have.
Breakdown of relationships. And coming out of that program, I got so many calls. That day, the following day, the day after that, call upon call, because people would have gotten the number from on the air. And they had the same story. Relationships that broke down because of money that they lent to somebody who was close to them, and so on. But, you know, it's also hard when you hear people go to tears, actually cry, because they've lost. You know, my father used to say, use a statement, I had my money and I had my friend. I lent my money to my friend, and I lost my money and my friend. And that is something that we see happening so often.
Could you repeat that again?
I had my money, I had my friend.
Okay.
I lent my money to my friend. I lost my money and my friend.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yes? Okay. I thought it was worth repeating.
And I don't know of anybody who has never been caught in that situation. I think that lending is something that we should try as much as possible to be in a position to lend, but avoid it. It's one of those oxymorons. Be in a position to lend, but avoid as much as possible lending somebody. Even
though people who may perceive that you have it.
Yes.
You know, that why is it that if I asked you for $500, Allison, surely you must have $500 sitting down there that you're not using, and you should lend it to me.
There are some professional borrowers. They just see that you have and say, hey, that's a good source to get something. When you ask them, what is it you need it for? And sometimes some people get offended that you're asking that. But we need to recognize, I should not take my money and give it to somebody to do something with it that is less important than what I would have used it for. There are people that they don't have, and they are asking you to borrow money to go to a function to dress up and so on. You don't have the money to pay the 1,300 in some of these functions.
Football games.
Yes, and you are borrowing it from me. I will not spend it because I feel that I don't have that kind of money, and yet I must lend you the money. So therefore, if I don't have it to use myself to do that, whatever it is that you are coming to me for must be more important than what I would have used it for. Something very crucial.
So really and truly what you're saying, Michael, is try to avoid lending.
Avoid lending and avoid borrowing. Both of them, because the Bible says the borrower is servant to the lender. Nobody gets all excited when they see a banknote coming to them, because you never ever like people who lend you. You always avoid them. You see? So you avoid anything, credit union, all of that. The time that you feel happy with them is when you pay that last payment. You feel that relief, you feel that burden that leaves you. Why do you feel that way? It is because you no longer owe.
And because if it is that you owe someone money, or even if it is you have a dependency on. You see, you're depending on the bank to keep you going because you keep borrowing from the bank.
That's right.
So therefore, as you say, you avoid it and even thinking about it.
Yes.
Because you feel you are not in control of your life.
That's
the
right.
bank is in control of you.
That's right. That's right. For years. For years. So therefore, avoid it. In Tobago, well, you know, we have people, loans officers would tell me, people would come in to borrow money for harvest. I don't know if you've ever been to a Tobago harvest.
Not a Tobago harvest, but I've been to a nice Mayaro.
Yeah.
And I've planted shares. Toko.
Tobago harvest, where people just cook. They have no idea who's coming, how many people come in. They just cook galore. So it is costing thousands of dollars. In some cases, people would spend $15,000 and $20,000 just for the stuff that they cook. Because as people come, they come with their friends and they pass in and so on. And those loans officers would say, people would come in, take out a loan this year, refinance it the next year, and they are always in debt for harvest. Now, my question is, why must I feed hungry gut people who just walking about the place looking for things to eat? I have never done it, and I live in Tobago, and people know better than to pass by me for harvest to sit down and eat.
So wait a minute, the harvest isn't that you cook and we go and buy the food? It's
No. You
just
just come in and you drink and you eat.
Let me put it in my diary. When is the Tobago harvest?
At every village. In fact, I think this weekend is harvest in some one of the places. But and you just come and eat, and people take more than they can handle. So they take 2 sips of the beer, they rest it down. And they go to another, because you move from house to house. Okay. And then you go to somebody's house and you take again. So you'll have endless half-eaten and half-drunk bottles all over the place.
Half-drunk? I thought you were going to say I'm drunk.
Yeah. And half of it is just pure gluttony. And we need to put a cap on it. We in a land of plenty now. The time is coming when the famine is going to be here. And people need to now start learning to save and be prudent with what they have, and not being displaced. And
would you say that by lending, if it is that you know, people like to think that someone's go, you know, that person is a very generous person, you know. Whenever anybody's in need, they would lend them money. So you now, if you're the lender, you begin to feel a little bit of like, oh, I'm a really nice person. Look at the amount of people I am helping.
Yes.
But you have to, from what I'm listening and hearing from you, Michael, is that you have to think, well, am I being right? Am I being smart? Am I really helping these people? Some people lend and cut their nose and spoil their face, you know. They lend just because they're afraid to say no. They feel ashamed. But they're giving it with guilt. Which brings me to the next point. Try not to lend, give. Because the Bible says it is more blessed to give than to receive, not lend. Right? And so when you give, you have really detached yourself from that which you have given. And give to a cause that you think is worthy, that you think this is a cause, that I think this is a need, and I'm giving to